Here's a book that utterly blew my mind and fundamentally shifted how I view human history and, more importantly, our present-day lives. We're talking about Yuval Noah Harari's groundbreaking work, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. While we are so caught up in our modern daily lives, it's hard to even consider that Sapiens' lives could have taken different trajectories, and that the way humans progressed only served to complicate their lives, with each generation picking up from the previous and adding more fuel to the fire, ultimately to a point where turning back or changing the course became impossible. Now, if you haven't read Sapiens, I highly recommend it. But even if you haven't, watch this brief video because today we're going to explore one of its most provocative arguments, the idea that we, as humans, have fundamentally complicated our lives so much from the days of our hunter-gatherer ancestors. We're going to ask, are we actually happier or more fulfilled now than in those ancient times? Think about it. Our modern lives are filled with endless to-do lists, constant pressure, financial worries, and a sense of always being on. We work long hours, commute, manage complex relationships, navigate bureaucracy. It's a lot. But just a few thousand years ago, our ancestors lived in small bands, moved with the seasons, hunted, gathered, and likely had a lot more leisure time than we give them credit for. How did we get from there to here? Harari points to one pivotal moment as the biggest turning point, and he calls it, quite controversially, history's biggest fraud. I'm talking about the agricultural revolution. For centuries, we've been taught to view this as humanity's greatest leap forward, the birth of civilization, progress, settlement. But Sapiens asks us to look closer. What did the agricultural revolution really bring for the average sapiens? It brought wheat, rice, and potatoes, crops that promised abundant food. But instead of more leisure, it brought more work. Farmers toiled from dawn till dusk, year-round, chained to their fields. Hunter-gatherers had a diverse diet. Early farmers subsisted on a very limited, often nutrient-poor diet of grains. This led to health issues, new diseases from living in close quarters with animals, and a less varied intake of essential nutrients. Furthermore, it brought an explosion in population, which meant more mouths to feed, intensifying the pressure, and critically, it led to settlement. We stopped moving, built permanent villages, and this permanence created something new: property. And with property came the need for defense, for organization, for rules. It introduced concepts like surplus, ownership, and ultimately hierarchy and inequality. Before, everyone shared the spoils of the hunt. Now, some owned the land, others tilled it. So, while it seemed like a step towards a better life, a more secure food supply for the individual human, it often meant a harder, less healthy, and certainly less free existence. Harari argues that we didn't choose agriculture because it made our lives better. We stumbled into it and then got trapped by its demands. We became slaves to our crops rather than masters of our environment. This idea challenges our core assumptions about what progress truly means. And from that foundational shift, the complexity only grew. Each subsequent generation, facing the established realities created by their ancestors, the agricultural system, the concepts of property, the growing populations, had to adapt. They didn't start from a blank slate. They inherited rules, systems, and beliefs. We created imagined orders. These are the shared fictions that bind large groups of people together: religions, nations, laws, corporations, money. None of these exist objectively in nature, but we collectively believe in them, and that belief gives them immense power. Money allows millions of strangers to cooperate. Laws provide a framework for society. Nations give us a sense of collective identity. These are incredibly powerful tools for large-scale cooperation, something hunter-gatherers, living in small bands, never needed on this scale. But these imagined orders also create new layers of rules, new hierarchies, new demands. We went from being physically chained to our fields to being mentally and socially chained to jobs, mortgages, societal expectations, and the relentless pursuit of more. We invented a future based on progress, but often overlooked the increasing burden on the individual. We've optimized for collective power and growth, often at the expense of individual well-being and natural simplicity. We're living in systems, built upon systems, layer upon layer of human-made complexity. So where does this leave us in our modern day? We have incredible technology, medical advancements, global connectivity. We've eradicated many ancient diseases and largely escaped the immediate threat of famine. But are we actually happier? Are we more fulfilled? Harari doesn't offer easy answers, and neither will I. But Sapiens forces us to critically examine the narratives we tell ourselves about progress. It encourages us to ask if our endless pursuit of convenience and growth has actually created a life of quiet desperation for many. It highlights the profound trade-offs we've made, often unknowingly over millennia. We've gained immense power as a species, but perhaps lost some fundamental aspects of individual freedom and well-being in the process. Understanding this history isn't about wishing we could go back to the Stone Age. That's impossible and impractical. But it is about gaining perspective. It's about recognizing the human-made nature of many of our modern stresses and rules. It's about questioning the default settings of our lives. It's about asking what true progress looks like, not just for the collective, but for us as individuals. Can we reclaim some of that hunter-gatherer simplicity, that focus on the present, on community, on direct experience, within our complex modern world? This book, Sapiens, is a powerful tool for reflection. I highly encourage you to read it if you haven't. If this discussion sparked some thoughts for you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content that challenges assumptions, and share this video with anyone who critically questions modern life. And in the comments below, I want to know, what's one aspect of hunter-gatherer life do you sometimes wish we still had in our modern world? Let's discuss.